This video is sponsored by Kinsta, the company that will host your WordPress website with blazing speed, ironclad security, and reliability. Simply go to kinsta.com/companyman to get your first month for free and free migration. The link is in the description. Not too long ago, it seemed like everyone was talking about plant-based meat substitutes. That was the big topic. People got excited when technology advanced to a point where companies could make hamburgers and chicken nuggets that closely resemble traditional meat products without containing any actual animals, seemingly the best of both worlds, right? The company at the center of it, and arguably the one most responsible for starting the craze, was Beyond Meat. In 2009, founder Ethan Brown connected with two professors from the University of Missouri who had been researching ways to, make plant proteins better resemble the texture of meat. I cannot say much about the science behind it, but after working with them for a couple of years, Ethan Brown used all of his money to license that technology and start the company. His motivation to do it stems from the time he spent on his family's dairy farm when he was younger. He says he always had an ethical question about why certain animals were commonly killed to be eaten, while others were typically beloved as pets. After earning an MBA from Columbia University and working for almost a decade as a fuel cell engineer, he felt it would be more meaningful to dedicate his career to developing and selling these plant-based products. His belief is that his product is healthier for people in that it avoids the heart disease and cancers that have been associated with the consumption of red meat. It is better for the environment, given the fact that livestock is a major source of greenhouse gases. It uses fewer resources like land, water, and energy, and of course, it does not harm any animals. I would say those are noble intentions, with a lot of potential benefits there. In 2012, chicken-free strips was launched as Beyond Meat's first product, initially sold in select Whole Foods stores in California. From there, they kept introducing new products, notably the Beyond Burger in 2016, and expanded their reach to larger, more widely appealing retailers. The uniqueness and potential of the brand helped attract some high-profile investors, like Bill Gates, that helped give it publicity and scale the operation to where it became one of the fastest-growing food companies in the country. Just a few of the highlights would be in 2013, PETA named it their Company of the Year. In 2014, Fast Company named it one of their 50 world's most innovative companies. In 2018, TGI Fridays started selling the Beyond Burger nationwide as their fastest ever new product launch. Later that year, the United Nations recognized it as a champion of the earth based on sustainability efforts. In 2019, Beyond Meat had an abnormally successful initial public stock offering, and a couple months later, it hit an all-time high valuation of around $12 billion. Many investors believed that plant-based meat products were the way of the future, and since Beyond Meat was like the main company involved in that market, it seemed like a smart investment. Well, I can tell you right now, it was not a smart investment. Since that peak in 2019, Beyond Meat has lost about 98% of its value. Shares of it that used to trade for $235 are now well under $5. On top of that, sales have been falling since 2021 after reaching an all-time high of almost $500 million that year. I think it's interesting that in 2022, Beyond Meat teamed up with McDonald's to create the McPlant Burger that was sold in San Francisco and Dallas as test markets. Well, those tests were not successful in either market, so McDonald's decided to discontinue it. Later that year, Beyond Meat laid off a significant portion of their workforce as an effort to save money, and overall, things have not been looking good. I even went to Google Trends to confirm that interest in the term Beyond Meat has greatly fallen from its all-time high in 2019. What used to be seen as one of the most promising companies out there is now struggling to stay alive. So in this video, I have outlined what I believe to be 5 of the biggest reasons behind the decline of Beyond Meat. Starting off with competition, because plant-based meat substitutes, believe it or not, quickly became one of the most competitive food segments. Back in 2012, when Beyond Meat started selling chicken-free strips for the first time, I do not believe there were any significant competitors. They were the first to do it on a large scale. Then, in 2016, Impossible Foods became their first major competitor with the release of the comparable Impossible Burger. One of the big differences being that theirs is primarily made with soy protein, while the Beyond Burger is made with pea protein. And that Impossible Burger quickly became popular. Maybe you remember when Burger King started selling the Impossible double Whopper in 2019. That was the big year for both companies, and right about the time when everyone else started selling their own version of it. Probably the funniest one I have seen is the Kellogg brand Morningstar introduced Incognito, where the logo was a cow in disguise. Nestle, the world's biggest food company, started selling the Awesome Burger. Tyson, the country's #1 seller of meat products, actually used to own about 5% of Beyond Meat until they sold it to introduce their own competing products. All of this is pretty straightforward. As the market becomes more and more split, Beyond Meat's share of that market continues to shrink, which is especially concerning since the overall market has been having issues, and you are going to see that as I go through the rest of my list, the next reason being price. See, Beyond Meat, along with most comparable brands, tends to be pricier than animal meat. Sometimes you might see it cost twice as much. To be clear, this is something that has always been the case, but recent issues with inflation and interest rates have caused consumers to gravitate more toward lower prices. It is positioned as more of a premium product, so consumers have been passing on it in favor of something more basic. Plus, ingredient costs have been rising while sales have been falling, and one of their efforts to counteract all of it has been to raise prices, making more money from their existing loyal customers, but creating more of a barrier for everyone else. This is all related to the next reason on my list, losses, because so much money has been spent on research and development and growing the brand that Beyond Meat has never reported a profit. Every year they continue to lose money. I do not have too much to say about this, but losses amounting to $1.2 billion and falling sales is not exactly what an investor wants to see. What makes this even more troubling is that the company owes over $1 billion that will be due in a couple of years, and without any money coming in, it is unclear if they're going to be able to pay it when that time comes. Meaning that if things go poorly, Beyond Meat may not even continue to exist for too much longer. Next up on my list is questionable health. The big question is, are plant-based meats actually healthier than meat from animals? And the answer is unclear. I have no idea. Eating animal meat comes with its own risks, but then in trying to imitate it while eliminating those risks, plant-based meats have created a bunch of their own risks. It tends to contain more sodium and be highly processed, so please look into this yourself without letting anything I say convince you one way or the other. In the end, I think it comes down to the individual and what they feel is more important, but we also have to consider that comparatively, plant-based meat is much newer and more mysterious. Most people probably could not tell you how it is made or list out the ingredients in it. In 2019, a controversial nonprofit called Center for Consumer Freedom paid for a bunch of commercials and newspaper ads to basically promote the message that the ingredients in plant-based meats are not healthy.
Propylene glycol. It's a chemical used in antifreeze and synthetic meats.
Ethan Brown called it a smear campaign, but however you feel about the issue, there have been efforts to sway people's opinions against Beyond Meat, and that has clearly not been good for them. I feel like I should mention that in early 2024, they introduced what they call the 4th generation of the Beyond Burger. It was reformulated to replace existing oils with avocado oil, and in the process lowering the saturated fat and sodium content. So there have been ongoing efforts to improve the health of the product. For the final reason on my list, I thought it would make sense to bring up a few scandals that Beyond Meat has been a part of. For example, in 2022, their chief operating officer was arrested for allegedly biting someone's nose after a football game. Later that year, there were internal documents released that detailed unsanitary conditions at their plant in Pennsylvania. In 2024, there was a $7.5 million settlement from a class action lawsuit that alleged Beyond Meat overstated protein content and quality of ingredients in their food. Just a lot of various things like this. I would not say any of them have been too impactful to the company on their own, but collectively have helped harm its reputation. I think I can summarize a lot of this by simply saying that Beyond Meat and all the other comparable products may have been a little overhyped. You have to admit that plant-based meat that resembles animal meat so closely is a cool innovation with a lot of potential benefits. However, people may have been overestimating it while overlooking the drawbacks. It still does not taste exactly like meat. It has unhealthy aspects, it cost more money, and the list goes on from there. Let's face it, the only way Beyond Meat was ever truly worth $12 billion is if plant-based meat was well on its way to becoming the new standard, and a lot of people did feel that way. But then being able to look back now with a little more perspective, that is unlikely to happen anytime soon anyway. Looking at the rise and fall of this company and how fast it all happened, an argument could be made that Beyond Meat was not exactly a world-changing company, but potentially more of a fad. Tell me if you agree with that, and also let me know in the comments, what do you think about Beyond Meat and all the other companies that have made comparable products? Will these meats ever truly replace animal meat? Will it remain an alternative for certain people or certain situations, or will it fade away entirely? In 2024, the company released Beyond Sun Sausage, which unlike every other product before it, does not try to imitate the taste of meat, but rather be its own thing, very much going against previous goals and suggesting a potential shift in direction for the future. And finally, will Beyond Meat be able to make a comeback, or will it continue to fall? In your opinion, do they offer something unique from all the comparable options, or have they gotten lost in the shuffle? And any other thoughts you have about Beyond Meat, leave them in the comments. I'd like to hear what you have to say. Thank you for watching.